Hi, all. Welcome to another episode of Saturday Architecture. It's very interesting. You can't live without it. You can't live with it. So it's an a crazy state to be in. And I was just giving Deepak an analogy that there is a vaccine that you take. You know that it's going to be bitter. It'll cure you. Then the doctor says, "I'm going to give you a medicine. You have 50% chance of a success or a failure." And then there is that other thing where you had a painkiller spray that you got, you sprayed it, and within 2 seconds the pain vanished. Now, these are three different relationships or feelings we have with the medical solutions. When you want to do that solution one more time, execute it again, there is a different feeling that comes. For me, it is like you take all these three feelings, put it into a mixer and mash it up, and you end up with some vague feeling. You love it, you hate it, you're afraid of it, you're excited by it. But it's not definitely a comfortable feeling, but you can't say that it's bad and walk away also. And I think in essence, it's like if I had to distill it, I said, I'm finding it hard to trust AI. Now, I do not know how to trust it in a way that I can work with it in a meaningful way where my stakes are at play. Now, when I was thinking of this, I think Sesh has been trying some real stuff. For home projects, pet projects is a different thing. But when you want to put it out there where your reputation or rake or something is at stake, it becomes really dicey. And two things I think Deepak and Sesh are there is Deepak said he's using it to manage his home, he's doing something with options trading, and Sesh is again doing with options trading. And these are clear money kind of thing. Like I also used it for options as well, but I used it more like a co-pilot, so I'm still okay. But even then, it had issues like it had got the lot sizes wrong and things like that, which means I still have to be careful and be look at it. To put it this way, I am getting momentum, but the stress is also increasing. It's not like my stress is coming down. What I mean, like, I would like to hear you guys have been actively paying. What's your feeling? Do you feel the same way or different? Let's talk about how do you feel about it first, and then your experiences, which creates
Yeah,
that feeling.
yeah. I'm stressed in a different way, right? Now it's like, hey, in this 5 seconds, I can actually build something very good or very interesting that actually makes my lives better. So in that sense, I'm in this constant state of, oh, I have that idea, let me try this out. I have this idea, let me try this out, right? This. So, but joke apart, I honestly I don't have negative feelings at all. Like whether we trust or whatever, right? To give you an anecdote. Ever since I built my trading automation application, I won't say it's a bot because it's not. It's more just speeds up the mechanics of trading. What used to take 15 seconds takes like half a second now, right? I've I'm tracking all the stats. I've done about 800 trades so far with this in the last 2 months or so with real money. I think the transaction will go in millions because it's futures and things like that. But I've made money, I've lost money. That's not an issue. And once at around 8:30 p.m., the bot actually got out of hand. It just started selling repeatedly. Within like 1 minute, it had sold like 60 lots. I caught it,
Okay.
I cut it off, I fixed it. It has the potential for a runaway train, but that was literally the only instance that happened. That actually didn't make me trust it less. It actually made me trust it more because it's real stuff. Bad things can happen. Like if you write code for 2 months, you would have so many issues that it'll be out of control. At least this guy, I was able to clearly see what was happening, right? But it like again, it happened exactly once. I have done 800 trades. Once it got out of hand, and we immediately fixed it. It was within minutes. It was able to say, "Hey, this was the issue. I placed the order. The broker sent a slightly different response. I didn't understand that response, so I kept placing the order. The code that I made kept placing the order, thinking the previous order didn't go through." Then we like back and forth, blah blah blah. We fixed it, but literally once. But imagine in the whole realm of possibilities, that runaway train, if if a human is programming and you are making them hit the live server, they are going to nuke your account, right? They will write tests that will create orders. I actually think this is like at least 3 or 4 magnitudes better in terms of quality and reliability. Again, given the amount I've done in the last 2 months and the fact that I didn't do paper trading, I just connected to. I didn't do paper trading because psychologically I figured paper trading would push me in a different state of mind. So it's worked. But apart from that, it's real money. I'm using it real. I've let it run overnight. It still keeps executing these orders fantastically. So I have no trust issues. But then I do think there are.
How did you catch that exception, kid? I'm just curious on that.
I'll
How
come to
did you
that.
even
No,
know
no,
it was?
I'll come to that. So I
Okay.
don't have trust issues because there is 2 things that I'm constantly doing. I guess I even when I started, I didn't start with the mental model that this guy is going to take care of it. I started with the assumption that this is going to make a mistake. If God was programming, I think God will make mistakes because programming is hard. So I started with this scaffold, which is like I have my broker application running, right? That's my source of truth. And the broker application, my phone tings every time their order is placed. So I'm watching TV, suddenly I'm like ting, 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 ting. That specific sound only comes from my broker application. I immediately went there, I'm seeing orders firing, and then I kill the process. All was good. So I always start with that sort of an assumption. I won't call it not trusting. I mean, if Linus Torvalds, who's the world's best programmer, let's say, if he was working for me, I still probably would have had this scaffolding because it's just the nature of it, right? There could be a timing issue, it could be a timing bug. So I started with assumption. The second thing that I do, every single first thing it writes, I always push it into GitHub, which means if it does a runaway job and like you said, it generates code without you asking for it, all you have to say is, all right, just undo it. Let's start from the previous stage because it is pushing every change to GitHub, or at least it is committing and staging things locally. It is able to undo. So I rely on these things. So most of these applications I build, if it has like real financial stakes or real data loss stakes, I use the broker or an external application as my source of truth. But for standard UI, front end, CRUD, these sort of things, I've seen it actually performs very, very well.
That's very
Yeah,
interesting. I think if I have to give a very kind of a simple metaphor, whatever we talk in the AI word like prompt, injection, guardrails, evaluation, they are like add-ons that you add to the car to give you protection. Bumper, this, that, warning, close.
yeah,
But what you are doing is actually you are buying insurance, which is outside this, right? Like car insurance, accident, third party. So you're buying something like that, and maybe the closest thing is you have a drone monitoring your car, which comes above. You invested in that. Okay, got that. So I think outside the system, it's like a third party verification or a third party control. That's a interesting way of looking at it. And
I mean,
I'll come back.
if we just have to summarize it, I think I actually realized this as we are talking. I think you have to start with the assumption that it is going to make mistakes. You don't have to trust it to not make mistakes. I think that the trust that I have on AI is that it is going to be like 5 or 6 orders of magnitude faster than a human, and 3 or 4 orders magnitude higher quality than a human. But it's not zero. The quality, I mean, the defect rate is not zero. The defect rate could be 1 in 5 billion, and that one could be a rogue order that nukes your account overnight.
Mm. I have one question coming in my mind. I think we'll come back to it in the second round. But so that I don't forget
Yeah.
it, I'll just tell the question. So it's one is about typically we have trained ourselves. As you're hearing it, it dawns on me that we have put all our energy in problem solving. Okay. But what you're telling is a different mind. It's a different mindset. We typically say problem solving, these are the possibilities, let me say I get a solution. But in the method that you're telling, there is a different way of thinking. Something like, if it goes wrong, then what do I do? It is more like risk mitigation or risk planning. And that was never a part of problem solving. It was only a part of implementation. I
Yeah.
think that's something we'll go a little more deeper into that. I think that's a new paradigm. Deepak, how has been your experience? Trust, you feel trust, is it trustable, not trustable, stressed, not stressed?
Oh, no. Okay. So first thing, the feeling which you asked for, right? How do I feel about doing this? One is I feel extremely empowered, right? It means things which I could do it if I spent a very large amount of time doing and learning something and doing it. This has made it possible to do it in minutes or half a day or something like that, right? So that means, like both of you, I am not an active programmer, right? I just know the basics of it. I've done some programming and know how systems work. I can understand if somebody explains it to me. That's my level of expertise, right? And with that, I am able to do things like reverse engineer actual electrical system and say, okay, I want to talk to my inverter, right? I have this program. This is how it is talking. Help me reverse engineer. I want to write the whole thing in Python, right? So now this thing helps me create it very quickly, right? And troubleshoot it. And since I understand both the technologies of the electrical world and the programming world, I can understand, okay, how it is talking to a physical system and what it needs and all those things and how I will troubleshoot it. Spend some time doing it. Without its support, I would have never been able to do it, right? So that's one feeling, that empowerment, right? So that I can actually do something like it, right? And the second thing which I get is you cannot get the complete feeling that it is going to be very predictable in what you want to do. If you want to make it predictable, you have to put so many things around it so that it always behaves in a certain way, right? Otherwise, it is going to behave like a expert, right? Who applies their mind every time they have to do the same thing, right? Which is not always a good thing, right? Why do you have people who design a process, right? Who create the structure around something, and then you have people who just execute it, right? Thinks about redesigning everything every time it has to execute a task, right? So those are the kinds of things I'm worried about.
Maybe like, why do you need to have an R&D department, product development department, and an ops department? Why not
Exactly.
just have one team where everybody is there to be?
So it's basically everybody in one shot, right? And that's what the AI is trying to do. But sometimes, and this is what we have learned through industrialization, that sometimes a process just needs to be executed. You do not need to apply your mind to it. And you put guardrails like what Sesh has done around controlling that process, right? That how does it, but if you let just AI do it and not make a separate, I would say, program system, which is actually only triggered by the AI and not actually running as AI, right? So there's mostly it is running as a program, which has predictable inputs, outputs, versus letting just AI do the whole thing, right? So if you just tell AI to do this option trading and you have this MCP server, go make your trades and do whatever, right? That is different from writing a system with the help of AI, creating a predictable system which runs independently through an API, not an MCP server, because MCP servers, I don't know, they are becoming more and more unpredictable, right? So in fact, I was so impressed with MCP that I have no knowledge of writing an MCP server. I got APIs and convert this API into an MCP server for me. And it actually did that. And I just, okay, so now I'm talking to the MCP server. So that feeling of empowerment is there. But the trust level of letting it execute, even a simple thing like I'm saying, I'm monitoring my inverter. If the solar level goes to this, then I want to switch to grid and so on. You cannot predict that it will provide the output in the same way every time, right? Sometimes if it goes and reads the wrong file and this does this, I try to I put in some guardrails around it, that is send me a WhatsApp message if this thing happens, right? All those things. I put all those things in place. But still, in the last, whatever, 2 months I've been trying to do this thing, I have still not come to the services. I can fully trust what it is doing. But I'm very impressed with it. It can do a lot of stuff. It has built stuff for me, which I've now been able to run on Python, and it is doing a fantastic job on those things. But trust level, I would say, it, as in the beginning, we were talking that he still needs to earn my trust. I tried the same thing with option trading. And unlike Sesh, haven't had the courage to do real trading. I'm still doing it on paper, right? But the amount of effort which I was doing on backtesting strategies, for example, right? The amount of data which is, I said, I just need to do a backtesting. Tell me how do I do it? He told me where to get the data. I said, I want minute by minute Nifty data and all those things. It got all those things for me, right? Which I would have never been able to find it on my own, right? I'm surprised to find there's a database called the Jugaad database. You'll be surprised. Because for some reason, if the NSE website doesn't give you certain things, right? Although it is publicly available, but you cannot get it
There's
programmatically. You
something
have
called, like my son was checking, like there is Bob, then there is NSE Pi, it seems.
yeah.
And
So
then,
the NSE provides lot of tools, but some of those tools actually don't get you the data in the way you want it. So somebody else has built a database called the Jugaad database.
wow, okay.
So it went and found that Jugaad database. I said, this is meant for exactly for this purpose. And I got that thing. And I was able to do the back testing using that. So that is, I just explained the feeling and the level of trust here.
Just a little more details around that. Did you
Yeah.
build an app or were you using it with Claude and giving the data and using it like a
Yes,
chat mode or like
I did write an app. I asked Claude to actually do it for me, right? I did it interactively. So what it did was it did write Python scripts to do the backtesting, right? But
okay.
to organize it and get it, so it did give me the backtesting script. So if I wanted, I could have run it on my own as well. But obviously, I didn't want to spend time learning the interfaces of the Python script itself. So I just gave it. I said, "This is the data. This is the archive of the data. You download it. There's an NSE BAO. You need to get it from there. You get real time things. You get it from there." But it was not able to get the BAO right directly. It says now you go to Jugaad. So you get it from Jugaad. So that's how I actually I did it interactively. So that's a short answer.
But Kumaran, quickly before we go further, I wanted to I don't know, challenge. I don't know if challenge is the right word. Challenge your question a little bit. When you say you don't, when you say trust, I think it would help if you say trust to do what or trust on what outcome, because it could be quite different.
No, I agree with you. I agree that the question is gold, right?
No,
my
I
answer to
meant,
that is yeah.
I meant the premise of this discussion. I think it's a very valid question. I'm not challenging the question.
No,
I think it would help if you qualify the question saying, for example, you can say, "Hey, I trust you to keep my money safe," or you can say, "I trust you to have a good time." Right? Trust is the single thing, but so I know.
I will qualify the trust. What does mean by trust in my skill? Yeah, go ahead, Kumaran first.
No, I think Sesh is trying to definitely make a valid point. Like, can you define the context of the trust?
Trust, yes.
But Sesh, purposely I am keeping it vague because one of the things in, I think, Deepak and me is that we are all irrational, emotional beings at the end of the day. Okay. So it requires a lot of awareness to scope out, oh, this is in this scope, this is this, in this scope, it is that, in this, that. So I'm taking a stance of a common person, like, it is like, I mean, we go out, right? Like, go out into the world, talk to your neighbor, talk to your parents. I'm going to do market. Oh, you gambling, you will lose all the money. Don't do that. The fear of stock market, right? I'm talking more from that. I'm taking that stance. I'm taking off my logical, rational, aware kind of a person and trying to look at it where the normal hat, and then majority of the population is like that. And in a corporate world, people are more defensive than experimentative. Forget being aggressive. Very defensive, safe. In an enterprise scenario, it's like you want to keep yourself more safe than innovative. So I think that's the reason. But definitely, if you kind of scope it right, then it becomes a lot more easier. I think that's the next part, right? Like going on to that, like, so as you were taking, something else came clearer to me. When I started, let's say, using a vehicle, to move around. Okay, let's take two-wheeler itself. The first thing I had was a Hercules cycle. I mean, people who know it, right?
I know.
You can't go fast with it. You can only go so much. Okay.
Yes.
Then people, when they moved to BSLR, BSA SLR, it was a sports kind of bike where you could do a little more things with it. You could do a wheelie with it. Or a BMX. BMX never came to India, or it was never there, where you could do more stuff with that. But a Hercules lead, you didn't need a elbow pad or a knee pad or a helmet. Whereas for a BTX, a different terrain kind of a bike, you need that. Okay, so how you deal with it is different. Or we all had our mopeds, which we had. How fast can you go in that? 30, maximum 40. Okay. And the traffic was not much. You could do it. The traffic around you will again go at 40 only. Today in city, you have cars and others going at 70 and 80. So the parameters have changed with the vehicles today, and helmet or protection becomes a basic thing. It's a different, and for somebody or enterprises or somebody as old as me, got used to riding a moped for a long time. Now I'm sitting on a 350cc Kawasaki Ninja. Okay. 650cc Kawasaki Ninja. I give it a small accelerator, it goes zoom. But I'm still not used to that. I have to wear a elbow pad or a helmet. And real life experience, right? Like one of my friends had got a 1000cc Harley Davidson. I said, give me a ride. He said, okay, take it. I took the bike, okay, pretty heavy. I went some 200 meters and my legs started feeling the heat. Literally, if I had gone under 2 kilometers, my legs would have got boils and burnt. Okay. And it's not even touching the engine. It's just staying right too. So even to do a normal ride, you need those riding gear to do that 1000cc riding. Now, I'm not used to that, right? Now, imagine wearing all, just to go for a ride, I have to wear the riding boots, the jacket, the everything, and then do it. The joy of riding is conflicting with the pain of dressing up for a drive, okay, or preparing for a drive, okay, and also a slightly a mental thing, right? Now, I spent more on the bike. Now, people who are in riding will know that if you have to get a decent riding gear, you have to spend at least minimum 50K to get a decent riding gear. And the bike costs you something like 10 lakhs, means imagine the proportion of the riding gear itself. It becomes quite important to that. So I think that shift of I didn't spend too much resources in protecting myself. It was about riding the vehicle and getting there. I think maybe, I guess you can talk about that a little bit. I think Sesh, you touched upon that, right? Like shifting your focus on protecting and protecting, and that's not a skill that you have. And interesting, maybe you can start off with, why did you start there first? Rather than with, let me get onto the bike. It's more like, let me go buy the protective gear, let me buy the helmet kind of a thing. Why you started there? And I think that could be the difference between the three of us, right? How we feel.
No, I was actually thinking of that exactly. I think I might have an actual prepared answer for it. My previous job was engineering management, right? I managed at the largest, it was like a 50-member team spread across countries, continents, whatever. I'm not trying to make this a LinkedIn poster, but my point is, so we hire extremely smart guys, very smart guys, but fundamentally we start with safeguard. Like for example, there is a requirement, blah blah blah. I give it to a person who's a senior SDE, knocks everything out of the park, and he comes back with the design proposal. The default role that I'm expected to play as engineering manager is poke holes in what he's saying. And the third or fourth question will be, how do we know if things are working? And when things go wrong, it's not if, when things go wrong, how do we recover? I'm wondering, maybe that became ingrained in my thinking, because I remember even I started prompting and all of this, literally the first thing I did was I want exhaustive logs. I don't care how much space it takes. I don't care what it is. I want exhaustive logs because programming with like I'm talking like top 0.1% programmer humans is going to be wrong because programming is very, very hard, right? Simple mistakes, typos. So I, I'm wondering maybe the last 5 or 6 years spending engineering management where the role I'm expected to play is that of a doubter or that of a challenger. Maybe that is pushing me to start with that mindset. Like basically like a construction worker first finishing the scaffolding and then laying the first brick.
Hmm. Okay. That's that's not something that we are used to in development, right? It's like I forget. Where even though we say the TDD is the closest that comes to that, but even hardly 10%
I'm not
of the
even talking about
projects.
TDD, right? I'm talking about more the mental.
No, I understand. I'm telling the closest
Yeah.
that is there in relevant is TDD.
I'll
Okay.
give you a
That too
give you a
after the
service.
requirements have come.
I'll give you a service management perspective on this thing, right? So this is because Sesh obviously has put a lot of systems into production, right? And what do you think about putting into anything you put into production, right? So this is how do I recover from failure? How does it back up? How does it reduce failure? How do I putting redundancy in place, right? So all these are things which are related to how do things work in real life, right? So I think that what Chase is bringing into the picture, I in my view is very few engineering managers do what you did. It's, right? I'm just saying this. If they were doing exactly what
Will you deliver on time? Good job. Go ahead. Good. Let's go push
Yes.
it to production.
exactly. So
Maybe
so
too
Chase,
many
what you
battle scars.
he is saying, right?
Or you
So,
are a pessimist person,
Pessimistic.
sadist who finds happiness in
Yeah.
making others.
Yeah.
right. So usually all these things what Chase is talking about, they get found out when you do UAT or you do hit into
Yeah.
production and then the first thing breaks down and then you start building it backwards. Right. So those are things. So I think that experience really matters. And that is where I think not everybody can be successful with AI tools as they exist today. Right. I'm just saying as they exist today. Because they still require the kind of expertise which Shesh has, what you have, what I have from the background, from learning from real things. Right? Learning from real things. We are actually just abstracting what we know from implementing in it real without the assistance of AI. Now we are applying it to say, how do we make sure that AI never does the things which we failed with? Right. So that's the knowledge we are applying. But the think about the next generation who will not. That is my worry. That's my feeling of worry that people who actually don't learn how a pull request has to be analyzed or how a problem has to be reverse engineered or understood or a redundant system is to be put into place, they will just rely on what AI is going to tell them. And is that going to sort of not what they can, because the muscle is not being built, so they will never have that muscles to exercise. Right? So unless they exercise the muscle, they will never have that skill to apply. Go and say, you want to say something.
I think, see, I don't know if it will sidetrack this question, but interestingly, the context in which I was talking was coding agents. I don't trust the AI chat at all because they make up stuff so much. I don't trust the validity of anything these chat things say. I always double check with Google or some known source because these people just, like you say, how do I program my garage door with my car? They'll give you some instructions. They'll say, press this magenta button. What magenta button? This model doesn't have. Then it'll say, oh, sorry. Anyway, that's a side discussion. But I'm talking about coding agents. But
Yes,
see, it's like this AI is evolving so rapidly. There isn't time for the SDLC or the so-called common sense to be codified, right? Software engineering had that. If you talk to people who started programming in early 2000s or late 90s, they will tell you stories about how they took down their databases because they forgot a where clause, or how RM minus RF took down their servers. But now we have evolved to Windows use until XP. Windows did not have this administrative access. You own the machine, it did whatever you wanted. Then in Vista is when that got the user access control. So the industry will evolve. These guys are evolving significantly faster and better. So the future generations don't have to know all of this. It will come in back. Again, I'll go back to the same thing that I spoke a couple of sessions back. We don't talk about memory management. There used to be a time you wouldn't survive 1 hour of coding without point arithmetic. Now we don't. So I think the AI will also evolve everything. Right now we are in a very interesting point because the SDLC or AI SDLC process hasn't been codified. I'm sure some companies have figured out how to do it. Some individuals know how to do it. It has not just become common practice.
I just want to add on. I put one post in our architecture cell. This is what experiment with these guys did. So they invented one disease, right? Actually, and just you can read that thing. So they invented a disease, and they put some it was obviously like it was made to be caught, right? It was supposed to be a joke, and they said, okay, let us put this thing. Let's see what AI does to this thing. So they invented some disease called bioxenome something, mania something, right? And they just posted some really good looking, absolutely fake papers, journals, inside papers, right? And within few days, search engines are pulling it up. AI was quoting it. 40 people were diagnosed with that disease, right? So it's like completely it has gone off the rails, right? And and Springer actually, which is a very renowned publishing peer-reviewed papers, are published on top of that paper, right? It's like completely gone off the rails. And that thing can happen with coding as well, right? So somebody injecting this is like health scenario where people would still do.
What you shared is 40 million people, man. 40.
Oh, okay, so sorry, maybe I read it. So apparently it was rare disease, right? But the thing is, a similar thing can happen with AI also, and some of it can be malicious also.
I think, at least from a code perspective, right, you can actually see it. But I think it gets more trickier when you go more closer to real life. Okay, so for example, like I have developed a skill, Claude, I have a strategy which I say I want to do college trades. This is my thing, okay? And after tax and this thing, I want this, and I will give it the charts, and then I'll say, okay, tell me what are the possible pricing that I can take. Okay. Now I've been tweaking it, but every single time the confidence doesn't go up because suddenly it will make up a lot number. Classical example. Okay, so I would actually say, okay, just confirm the lot size with me. Okay. And then I will tell one lot size. Once it will ask, second time it won't ask. Now worried.
Unpredictable. Right.
Okay. Or the other time I give it a lot, and sometimes I'll say, okay, I'm going to be proactive and I will actually cut all the charts. Okay. Now, again, I can actually make Claude to take screenshots of the applications for the chart. Okay. Or connect it to an MCP server. But I want to I want to be comfortable that it got the right data. Okay. So I actually manually copy paste it, and I actually give it like, this is the stock and this is the current lot size for it. Still it will get it wrong. When it gives a final recommendation, it says lot size is this, and it says like, why did you do this? Then it said, oh, my old data had this lot size. Oh, are you telling that it has changed? Yes, my dear fellow, please do.
This is exactly the kind of behavior which does not inspire the trust, right? So that's
the Sesh. I think the thing which I think the domain of generated code is one. In this case, I'm asking it to actually take decisions for me, which I have to execute. And I think that's where it gets worrisome. That fear comes in.
So in my view, since we're talking about a non-code system, so what I also did was, so in my strategy, there is it's a day trading thing, right? So it's a day trading thing, so it's actually supposed to auto-execute. Although on paper right now, this takes nothing to make it real. It talks to the MCP server. So in the morning at a particular time, it will go
Just the
yeah,
geek part of me talking.
Yeah.
So you do it with kites under
Kite. Yes, Kite.
and you use Sensible for the
No.
paper
I just,
trading, huh?
no. I just said, I just made an Excel file. I said, do it in an Excel file. I don't even need Sensible. Why do I need Sensible? Right.
Okay,
Because
so
I'm just doing paper trading. Right. So I said, just log all the trades in Excel. I can make my own graphs. Right. So I don't need Sensible. Yeah, I just need the real data coming from Kite. Right. So
I will tell you one non-AI caveat here.
Mm.
Trading bots or trading automation is not possible. I hate to be blunt. It's not possible because if there is 1 cent to be made per year, the big hedge funds and all these people who have their servers right next to
They would have
Nasdaq
already
would have done it. So automation is not possible. Every strategy you find will either break at a specific time or a specific duration. So I'm not saying this to talk about trading, but I'm saying evaluating the quality or the reliability of AI based on how the trades work. It is like trading is much less reliable than AI.
No, obviously. See, I'll just tell you how it works. So you can obviously, I'm still running it. So it apparently, quote unquote, is still making money, right, on paper, right? But the strategy, so what it does is, so I have given it a strategy of how do we select the particular strikes. So, and it follows the logic, and it's fairly accurate on that because it is built a Python script to select the strikes, right? So it predictably behaves. Right. So I'm not just doing it that you execute just by doing your own analysis. Is it? You run this Python script, and based on that, whatever you get the outcome, that is your strikes. Right. And then I run it a 15-minute monitor. Right. So which is a skill which I've created, the monitor skill. Right. Which is supposedly does at least it pretends to do the same thing every time. Right. But it does vary. Right. So it will do this, some monitoring, and can take a call to exit or not exit. Right. So that's what it will do. Right. So every 15 minutes it will do something.
So your structure is like you have a skill, you start it off. There is a Python script which continuously running, which talks to the MCP to get that thing and then creates a simulated by your cell in your Excel. So your Excel is like your trade. Oh, okay.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting.
So that's a paper trade completely. So I'm not using Sensible. So that's basically a replacement for Sensible, right? So Excel is there. So as why create another connection when you can just do it locally? There's no impact as such. So, but it is working fairly well because I have constricted it so much to do only certain things, right? And behave with the strategy, right? But still, it will go here and there and the strike selection because.
So your strategy itself, does it require AI or is it using
It does
deterministic
require.
Okay, it
It
requires
is
AI.
not very deterministic because they're like I gave it so many parameters as what is the mix, right? What is the gap from the previous day, right? So there are certain entry criteria which I put in place, right? And say okay, so those are deterministic in the sense that these are the yes no conditions.
Filter, input
And
filter, output filter.
Yeah, input filter. Yeah. So those are filters, and then it goes in and selects the strike. And so based on this strategy, these are the closest possible strike for the premium which I'm willing to pay because that is a restriction, right? So I'm not going haywire. So it's supposedly it doesn't matter which way the market goes. So it's what they call it the triangle, right? So it's a triangle. So
No, a question was,
yeah.
when you say it goes haywire now and then, I'm curious if you meant the code that it generates to select the contract based on the conditions has bugs, or you meant the AI is like it's an agentic selection. The AI takes everything into account, does like some sort of a curve fitting or something, and then decides.
Let
Like you're
me-
saying,
Yeah.
Let me just add to
Yeah.
Sesh part, right?
Yeah.
I think now the Chase is telling this of the skill that I built. I really have to look at it again. There is the deterministic part and the indeterministic part of
Yes.
it. Okay.
Yes.
Because it's easier to write 30 lines of a English description, prompt, make my MD file, skill, whatever you call it. it's a lot more easier to look at that in English and then check what's the logic or what the flow should be.
Right.
Now, for the things which I am telling, right? I think it is more like you can actually have a Python script and give the data. You do not need AI for it.
Mm.
That is, it's
Yes.
just automation, and this is helping
Yes.
me automate it easily. Okay. So
Yes.
probably in your whatever you are doing, what's the split between automation and actual
So if you
real
think,
AI
well,
need?
yeah, so that's what I agree that, you see, some of it, what I'm doing is very, very deterministic, right? So it should be possible to for me to completely sort of make it go into Python script, right? So and not be basically worrying. But the critical part is sometimes it does need to take a decision on the exit or entry, right? That's where I need that fuzzy logic which AI brings in, right? Where,
Okay.
for example, if I, because I'm day trading, I have a need to exit, right? And I need to exit, and then I'm monitoring for entry, I'm monitoring again, right? That's okay. Now, because I hit the stop loss, I am exiting the market, but I need to still monitor how the market is behaving so that I can re-enter, right? So for that, I need to build a candle chart, right? Now, that is very difficult to do with Python script and say explain what to do. And I says, okay, so as it is red candle, green candle, it's highest of the highest, lowest of the lowest, right? So all those things I just describe it. So and then,
Ah,
right, and I say, okay, just monitor the market for the next whatever duration and try for this thing. If it goes in this direction, we will take this right. If it does not go in this direction, we will take this try. Right. So that is where the fuzzy part comes in, where I want it to do the fuzzy things, which I don't
I
want to
think
put it into deterministic thing.
so. I think more than fuzzy, Deepak, I think that's an interesting point. I'm trying to dwell deeper. You just brought out something interesting. The domain knowledge we are expiring from that rather than building it ground up. Now,
Exactly.
in theory, in reality, green chart, red chart, if there was one library already available where I could actually have a function which says use the red chart, green chart, and this, then I don't think you would need that. Today, that thing doesn't exist. So
Exactly.
we are using the LLM's knowledge to say if it is a candle and the wick is so much, just do this. Or when the IV crush is going to happen in 2 hours, so check the time if it is 35 minutes from closure or if the volume trading is low. Now, what is low, I did not say. I can let
Yeah.
it decide.
I think
Yeah.
one other
Right?
way to crystallize that
Yeah.
question is, given the same inputs, will your app ever generate two different outputs?
Right.
Okay, then
Yeah.
then it's an agentic algo.
Yes. Yes. It's an agentic algo. That is right to say. Right to say, but I hate sometimes the word agentic, but it is the right description for it, because it is acting on my behalf, right? And so that's something which
See,
I would do if I was looking at it. Right?
actually,
So
that's
it is
the
doing on
tricky
my
part,
behalf. Yeah.
Sesh. I think well, it's also kind of our laziness or our incapability at the current point in time that in order to determine what a red candle is or what a green candle is, okay. Now, if I have to codify a red candle and a green candle and give it a chart and make the thing to identify that, it's becoming hard. Now I can just give an image to it and say, if you see a green candle, then do this decision
No,
for me.
actually, I tried that. I said, this is what
Okay.
I want, right? I tried that image thing. So, but finally, I realized he said, you don't need to give me the image. I can get it. I can build the right candle from the data myself, right? So I realized that. So there was no point giving the image, etc., because the data is flowing. You can build the red candle, green candle by itself. That was the easier part.
Interestingly, right, I think one thing became very clear in the past 5 to 10 minutes. All three of us have experience in trading to some level. We understand what a candle is. We understand it. Without this, it's impossible to even have this discussion.
Exactly.
I think it's like for the Sesh which he was talking about, you need to have software development and engineering exposure, and you need to have trading knowledge to do this. But it's kind of interesting that, let's say 20 years or 25 years ago, I had my neighbor. Now, if they had to do trading, right, they will walk 2 streets to a broker's office. They'll sit in front of the screen. And then they will say, okay, buy this, buy that. They will sit with the paper and then write and do it. The knowledge available to them was less. Now, for us, getting in has become a lot more easier, right? Like, and with AI, you can look at two, 3 different strategies. It helps you thicker. To your points, I don't even know whether I'm building a case or demolishing a case. Okay. So, Deepak, I think it's about, if you look at those old school people, right, they'll say, what are these kids coming and what do they know about trading or taking positions or what it is, kind of a thing, right? Like, I mean, like certain things, right? Even now, to me, if you ask me, tell me what is alpha or what is gamma Greek, it's hard for me to tell out of the mind. I'm sure they can do it.
They can do it probably.
This points to kind of in the direction that what Sesh is telling, still enable us to get a sense of things. Bottom line, I'm still as vague as I am. I'm just observing
I think
that, yes,
what Shesh mentioned is also a good point, because he was trying to address my worry about the knowledge gap which will exist in the future, right? So it is, what is the real need for me to understand the red candle, green candle, if the AI is going to do it for me, right? Same thing with pointer logic, right? So why do I need to know this thing anymore? Right now, the question is, because all these derivative trading systems have been created to sort of give the market discovery mechanism and do all these kinds of things. Now, if everybody, because I'm sure if all of us are doing it tomorrow, everybody is going to do it in 6 months' time. 1 month it is going to be available as a product and say, buy this for $20 a month. It'll do the option trading for you, right? So I'm sure that is going to come, right? Now, if algos are going to trade amongst themselves, right, human beings are going just to sit back and watch. That's what is happening in the market, because algos are just talking to each other. So that is the new normal we have to prepare for, I would say.
I think this is a full topic by itself. I think we
Yeah.
will keep that. No, I mean, what Sesh is, I mean, Deepak is heading to, right? Like, it's an interesting thing. We could actually have it as like, will AI take over? Okay. Now, because it's a completely different topic, but I was just thinking, at the end of the day, humans either want to control or to be controlled. Okay. And there is that 1% of the population which will control, the others will want to be controlled. Okay. So, and the ones who want to be in control would not want to let go of power.
Yes.
And they are only determining what the AI should do. Okay. So it's an interesting dynamic that we are there, right? We really want to control it. And even as much as you say we want to give autonomous, okay, do we really want to give autonomy or do we want to surrender, right? I think it's a interesting.
I think this is again a little bit optimistic twist on all these things. Is, see, humans being will always find something more complex to work with, right? And the way is, we were imagining like 5 years ago that everything is normal, everything is peaceful. Now you see the world, everything is in turmoil, right? So we always find something more complex to work with, which no matter how much automation you put in place, earlier we did not have electricity. Now electricity all auto managed. There is MCB, tripper, breaker, everything is there. Nobody cares about it, right? But it's there. No, if something breaks, you call electrician. He knows what to do, right? So similar things will going to happen with AI. AI will have its own plumbers, right? People like us, right? So we are going to go fix AI plumbing wherever it breaks, right? So AI is, in my view, at some level is going to become the plumbing, the or the electricity equivalent, whatever you want to call it. And there will be people who are fixing it. There will be people who are using it. And it will be just another tool. Hopefully that is the case.
While
That
we are on,
optimistic scenario.
no, you're right. While we are on metaphors, I think AI is the second coming of the PC. It used to be. I mean, once PC
Cloud.
came, people. No, I
Yeah.
meant like
Yeah.
computers were things that you'd see it in office, in like railway reservation. But then when PC came, obviously people started playing games, but people, Excel or writing documents by themselves, all that came in. Obviously, initially, I'm sure a lot of you would have felt, hey, this keeps crashing, or I don't want to write my document here because I type in 60 pages and it will lose the content. But eventually, it became, for the next generation, PCs became like a de facto thing, right? AI, mainly for the personal utility they are bringing, like what you were saying, Deepak, about writing your own application. I think PC is probably the closest analogy, whatever is the right word, that we can think of for AI.
Yeah. It's democratizing. It is democratizing the. It is something which is available to a very small set of people. Is now available for $20 a month, right? So that's the, I would say, the magic behind it.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I did actually see a news that moved towards the topic. Robinhood, the discount broker in the US, they have, I think they announced an agentic trading platform. They can let all these agents connect to them and start doing it. Now, if you think about it, that sort of takes away your need to write trading automation. So similarly, I'm sure like your Zerodha or whoever, they will also start doing all this.
Absolutely.
So the
They're
next
providing
generation,
MCP servers already. Yeah,
so
they're
the
already
next
providing all these
generation
things. Yeah.
doesn't have to know even what Python is, because they know that
Yeah.
the trading guy plugs in and you can start describing in oh, if the candle is inverted right next to a upward side candle, then go place an order. They can say that, and then the agents will talk to the Robinhood agent or
Or
whatever.
maybe even get more English, like there is a downward trend in
Yeah.
the in
Yeah.
next 10 minutes, make sure
Yeah.
that you sell it.
Yeah.
Keep watching for any other drop. If it drops, just go
Yeah.
up. Right? And okay, interesting. Okay, I guess it was great. Thanks for this discussion. We will continue. I think it's a it's an interesting perspective. I definitely have some more things to think about and fine tune my thinking. If not anything else, at least it's more a personal. Personally, I think it is making me think differently compared to the usual thing. And if you take certain learnings from working with AI, it's actually helping me in my overall personality and thinking and approaching risks and variations, right? And I realize how much engineering obsessed I was and how deterministic and how much I wanted to control things, right? At a personal level. That's more clearer to me.
One side effect which I would just want to mention is
Yeah.
doing this process, actually you learn things which you may not have thought about, right? Because I'm not an expert option trader. I'm a sort of a novice in you and everything. But doing this process actually helped me understand how strangle works, how it really, how does the market movement being measured, how the VIX actually impacts, right? All those things I learned by doing this thing. I did not have the inherent knowledge of all these things. I understood it at the surface level, but how does it affect the trade? I never understood that. And by doing this and watching it work actually helped me. I use it to learn. As it's explained to me why you did this thing, right? So you say this is the logic, and that actually helps.
The most underrated aspect of all these AI chat or agents is how well they understand what you're asking. They may not give you the right answer. That is mind boggling. That helps so much in learning, right? When you say, hey,
Yes.
I guess I understand what a strangle is, but I don't understand what the big deal is. It's able to understand exactly what you mean.
Yes.
Correct. And yeah, definitely. I mean, like I don't know if Chat GPT had mouth, it would have slapped me. How many times will you ask me what delta and G?
Yeah.
Idiot. How many times?
There's an interesting podcast. There's an interesting podcast with Cyrus Broacha. You know this guy, right? The 90s guy, right? We should know it. Cyrus Broacha and Amish Pati, right? So that guy who writes these mythological fiction now. So he's talking about AI, right? And interesting. It's very recently. You should probably listen to that. And he's explaining his point of view, right? And now these are all non-technical people who are talking about AI. And one of the jokes he makes is you should marry AI because it never disagrees with you. Right? Act as a good wife. Always listen to you, always support you, and always agree with you. You never say you're asking the wrong question. You always say good question. Let me explain.
Yeah, you know what? Claude these days is actually doing the reverse to me. The Claude code.
Is it?
I will say something and he'll immediately like, hey, I want to agree with you, but I don't want you to experience a loss because I said this. So you better make sense. I have to tell it, dude, I know what you're talking about. Just go ahead and do it.
It
But
is
it's not-
learning from your personality.
Great discussion. Thanks, guys. Let's see how the feedback is. All right.
All right, nice.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.